The high-value person. Stop chasing validation and start attracting respect. Written and published by Rising Audiobook. Introduction. Take a moment and ask yourself one question. How many of your decisions were truly yours? How many were quietly shaped by the fear of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood? Most people believe they're living freely, yet they spend their lives chasing something they can never fully control, the approval of others. The pursuit of validation is one of the greatest hidden traps of modern life. It convinces you to stay silent when you should speak, say yes when you want to say no, and shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's expectations. The more approval you chase, the more power you hand over to other people. But what if respect isn't something you ask for? What if it's something you naturally attract by becoming the right person? This audiobook isn't about arrogance, dominance, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about building genuine confidence, unwavering self-respect, emotional strength, and a character so solid that your value no longer depends on compliments, likes, or applause. You'll learn how to stop seeking permission to be yourself, set healthy boundaries without guilt, communicate with quiet confidence, and build relationships rooted in mutual respect instead of constant validation. The journey begins with a simple decision. Stop chasing acceptance and start becoming the kind of person whose presence speaks louder than words. Because the moment you stop needing everyone's approval is the moment you begin earning their respect. Chapter 1. The Validation Trap. Every human being wants to feel accepted. From childhood, we learn that approval often brings rewards. We receive praise for good grades, applause for achievements, compliments for our appearance, and recognition for meeting expectations. There is nothing inherently wrong with appreciating encouragement. The problem begins when approval stops being a pleasant bonus and becomes a basic necessity. That is the validation trap. The validation trap is the habit of measuring your worth by the opinions of other people. Instead of asking, "Am I living according to my values?" you begin asking, "Do they like me?" Instead of making decisions based on purpose, you make them based on popularity. Slowly, without realizing it, your happiness becomes controlled by people who may not even know your name. Imagine living every day with an invisible audience following your every move. Before speaking, you wonder what everyone will think. Before making a decision, you imagine how others might judge you. Before pursuing your dreams, you worry about criticism. That invisible audience becomes the loudest voice in your life, and eventually your own voice becomes almost impossible to hear. Modern society has made this trap even more powerful. Social media constantly encourages comparison. A photo receives hundreds of likes, and suddenly you feel valuable. Another post receives little attention, and you begin questioning yourself. One compliment can brighten your day, while one negative comment can ruin your week. Without noticing, your emotions become tied to numbers on a screen and opinions from strangers. But validation doesn't only exist online. Many people stay in jobs they hate because they fear disappointing their families. Others remain in unhealthy relationships because they are afraid of being alone. Some hide their talents because they worry about criticism. Others never start the business they dream about because they fear failure in front of people they barely know. In every case, the same question quietly controls their lives. What will other people think? That question has stolen more dreams than failure ever has. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. People are thinking about you far less than you imagine. Most people are busy worrying about their own lives, their own insecurities, and their own challenges. Yet countless individuals sacrifice their happiness trying to satisfy expectations that often exist only inside their own minds. Seeking constant approval also creates another dangerous habit. It makes you become whoever others want you to be. Around one group of people, you hide your opinions. Around another, you change your personality. At work, you become someone different than you are at home. Over time, you wear so many masks that you forget which one is actually yours. Living this way is exhausting. Pretending requires energy. Authenticity creates freedom. This doesn't mean you should ignore advice or stop caring about other people. Wise people listen to feedback because feedback helps us grow. The difference is that feedback informs your decisions, while validation controls your identity. There is a huge difference between learning from criticism and living for applause. High-value people understand this distinction. They appreciate compliments, but they do not depend on them. They accept criticism without allowing it to define their worth. Their confidence comes from keeping promises to themselves, acting with integrity, and living according to principles instead of public opinion. Think about the people you admire most. They are rarely the ones who constantly seek attention. Instead, they stand firmly behind their values, even when those values are unpopular. They remain calm when criticized. They don't change their beliefs every time someone disagrees with them. Their strength comes from within, not from the approval of the crowd. That kind of confidence cannot be purchased. It cannot be borrowed. It must be built. The first step is becoming aware of your own validation habits. Ask yourself honestly, do you struggle to say no because you fear disappointing others? Do you constantly compare your success to someone else's? Do you feel anxious when people disagree with you? Do compliments determine your mood? Do you avoid opportunities because you're afraid of looking foolish? If your answer is yes to any of these questions, don't judge yourself. Nearly everyone has experienced some form of validation seeking. Recognizing it is not a sign of weakness, it is the beginning of freedom. Imagine waking up each morning knowing your value does not rise with praise or fall with criticism. Imagine making decisions because they align with your purpose instead of because they earn approval. Imagine speaking honestly, setting healthy boundaries, and pursuing meaningful goals without constantly seeking permission from others. That is what becoming a high-value person truly means. Respect begins the moment your identity is no longer rented out to other people's opinions. Confidence grows when your actions reflect your values instead of your fears. Freedom arrives when your self-worth comes from your character rather than applause. As you continue through this audiobook, you'll discover that attracting respect isn't about impressing everyone you meet. It's about becoming someone whose principles remain steady, whose confidence comes from within, and whose life is guided by purpose instead of approval. The validation trap may have shaped your past, but it does not have to define your future. Today, you can make a different choice. Instead of asking, how can I make everyone like me? Begin asking a far more powerful question. How can I become someone I genuinely respect? The answer to that question is where your transformation truly begins. Chapter 2. Build self-respect before seeking respect. If you want the respect of the world, begin by earning your own. That may sound simple, but it is one of the most overlooked truths in personal growth. Many people spend years trying to gain admiration from others while neglecting the relationship that matters most, the one they have with themselves. They seek compliments, promotions, followers, and recognition, believing these things will finally make them feel valuable. Yet no amount of external respect can fill the emptiness created by a lack of self-respect. Self-respect is the quiet belief that you are worthy of your own honesty, discipline, and integrity. It is not arrogance, superiority, or pride. It is the decision to treat yourself with the same dignity you expect from others. It means refusing to betray your values simply to gain acceptance. Think about the people who naturally command respect. They rarely beg for attention or approval. They carry themselves with confidence because they know who they are. They don't need to convince the world of their worth because they have already convinced themselves through their actions. That is the difference between confidence built on opinions and confidence built on character. One of the fastest ways to strengthen self-respect is by keeping promises to yourself. Most people understand the importance of keeping promises to family, friends, or co-workers. Breaking those commitments damages trust. But surprisingly, few people apply the same principle to themselves. You promise yourself you'll wake up early, but you hit the snooze button. You promise you'll exercise, but you skip another workout. You promise you'll stop procrastinating, yet another day passes without action. Every broken promise sends a quiet message to your mind: my own words cannot be trusted. Over time, these small disappointments weaken your confidence far more than you realize. Confidence isn't built by repeating positive affirmations in front of a mirror. It is built by proving to yourself, day after day, that your actions match your intentions. Now imagine the opposite. You decide to read for 20 minutes every morning, and you actually do it. You commit to exercising 3 times a week, and you stay consistent. You promise to speak honestly, even when it's uncomfortable, and you keep that promise. Every small victory becomes evidence that you are reliable, not just to others, but to yourself. That evidence becomes self-respect. Another essential part of self-respect is raising your personal standards. Standards are the invisible rules that guide your behavior. They determine what you accept, what you reject, and how you respond to life's challenges. People with low standards often tolerate disrespect, poor habits, unhealthy relationships, and excuses because they believe that's all they deserve. High-value people think differently. They understand that every decision either raises or lowers their standards. They choose discipline over convenience, honesty over comfort, and long-term growth over short-term pleasure. They recognize that standards are not about perfection, they are about direction. Imagine 2 employees with the same education, experience, and talent. The first employee constantly compromises personal values to avoid conflict. They agree with everyone, ignore unfair treatment, and abandon commitments whenever life becomes difficult. Their goal is to keep everyone happy. The second employee is respectful but firm. They honor deadlines, admit mistakes, keep commitments, and politely stand by their principles, even when it's unpopular. They don't seek conflict, but they don't abandon their values to gain approval either. Who is more likely to earn trust? Who would you choose to lead a team? Most people would choose the second employee because consistency builds credibility. Self-respect naturally inspires respect from others. This principle extends far beyond the workplace. In friendships, self-respect means refusing to tolerate manipulation or constant disrespect. In relationships, it means communicating honestly instead of pretending everything is fine. In your career, it means continuing to improve your skills instead of settling for mediocrity. In your personal life, it means taking responsibility for your choices rather than blaming circumstances. Every one of these decisions strengthens your identity. It's also important to understand that self-respect requires saying no, not only to other people, but sometimes to yourself. You say no to habits that weaken your future. You say no to excuses that keep you comfortable. You say no to instant gratification when it conflicts with your long-term goals. These moments may feel difficult, but they create a deeper kind of freedom. Every disciplined choice reminds you that your future matters more than today's convenience. Remember, people often observe what you tolerate before they observe what you say. If you constantly allow others to disrespect your time, ignore your boundaries, or dismiss your values, they learn how to treat you. On the other hand, when you calmly and consistently uphold your standards, you teach people to respect them. This doesn't require aggression or arrogance. In fact, true self-respect is remarkably quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't seek validation. It simply acts according to principle. As your self-respect grows, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop comparing yourself to everyone around you. You stop chasing approval because your worth is no longer determined by applause. Criticism still matters when it helps you grow, but it no longer controls your identity. Compliments become appreciated rather than required. You become your own source of confidence. Ask yourself a simple question today. If someone treated me the way I treat myself, would I call that respect? Would they keep promises? Would they speak with encouragement? Would they protect healthy boundaries? Would they invest in growth? If the answer is no, don't see it as failure. See it as an invitation to change. From this moment forward, make one commitment. Become someone you can trust. Honor your word. Raise your standards. Protect your values. Choose discipline over excuses. Because the greatest respect you will ever receive begins with the respect you show yourself. And once you truly value yourself, you'll discover something powerful. The respect you once chased begins to find you naturally. Chapter 3. Stop people-pleasing without feeling guilty. One of the biggest obstacles to becoming a high-value person isn't a lack of talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's the habit of trying to make everyone happy. At first, people-pleasing doesn't seem like a problem. It can even look like kindness. You volunteer to help, avoid arguments, agree with everyone's opinions, and put other people's needs ahead of your own. People may describe you as generous, easygoing, or dependable. But beneath the surface, something else is happening. You're slowly teaching yourself that everyone else's happiness matters more than your own. People-pleasing is rarely driven by kindness alone. More often, it is driven by fear, the fear of rejection, criticism, conflict, or disappointing others. Instead of asking, "What is the right decision?" you begin asking, "What decision will make everyone like me?" That small shift changes everything. The problem with trying to please everyone is simple. It is impossible. No matter how kind, generous, or accommodating you are, someone will misunderstand you. Someone will disagree with your choices. Someone will expect more than you can give. If your goal is universal approval, you are chasing something that does not exist. Ironically, the more you sacrifice yourself to gain acceptance, the less respect you often receive. Why? Because people naturally value those who value themselves. Imagine a coworker who never says no. Every time someone asks for help, they immediately agree, even when their own workload is overwhelming. They stay late to finish other people's responsibilities, cancel personal plans, and constantly apologize for things that aren't their fault. At first, everyone appreciates their willingness to help. But over time, something changes. Instead of being respected, they become expected. Their kindness is no longer seen as generosity, it becomes an obligation. People stop asking if they have time and simply assume they will say yes. This happens because boundaries were never established. Healthy boundaries are not walls that push people away. They are clear lines that protect your time, energy, values, and emotional well-being. Without boundaries, other people's priorities gradually become your own, leaving little room for your goals, health, or peace of mind. Many people fear boundaries because they confuse them with selfishness. But there is an important difference. Selfishness says, "Only my needs matter." Self-respect says, "My needs matter too." A high-value person understands this distinction. They are generous without becoming exhausted. They are compassionate without becoming available to everyone at every moment. They help because they choose to, not because they are afraid of being disliked. Learning to say no is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. For many people, that single word feels uncomfortable. It creates anxiety because they imagine disappointing someone or appearing rude. Yet every time you say yes to something that violates your priorities, you are saying no to something else. You may be saying no to your health, no to your family, no to your dreams, no to your peace of mind. Every unnecessary yes carries a hidden cost. Consider this simple situation. A coworker repeatedly asks you to finish part of their work. The first time you gladly help, the second time you assist again. Before long, it becomes a regular expectation. Your evenings become longer, your stress increases, and your own responsibilities begin to suffer. Finally, you decide to say, "I'm sorry, I can't help this time because I need to finish my own work." Notice what happened. You didn't insult anyone. You didn't create conflict. You simply protected your responsibility. That is not selfish. That is maturity. One of the greatest misconceptions about boundaries is that everyone will appreciate them immediately. They won't. In fact, some people may become uncomfortable when you begin respecting yourself. Those who benefited from your lack of boundaries may accuse you of changing or becoming difficult. In reality, you have changed. You have stopped sacrificing yourself to earn approval, and that is healthy. Remember this important truth. People who genuinely care about you will learn to respect your boundaries. People who become angry because you finally have boundaries often benefited from you having none. Another habit people pleasers struggle with is unnecessary apologizing. Listen carefully to your daily conversations. How often do you say, "I'm sorry," when you've done nothing wrong? "I'm sorry for asking." "I'm sorry for taking your time." "I'm sorry for having an opinion." "I'm sorry for saying no." These apologies may seem harmless, but repeated over time they quietly communicate uncertainty and low self-worth. Instead, replace unnecessary apologies with confidence and gratitude. Instead of saying, "Sorry for bothering you," say, "Thank you for taking the time." Instead of apologizing for setting a boundary, simply communicate it respectfully and clearly. Confidence doesn't require lengthy explanations. It requires honesty. People-pleasing also prevents authenticity. When your goal is to satisfy everyone, you begin hiding parts of yourself. You avoid expressing unpopular opinions. You pretend to agree when you don't. You laugh at jokes you dislike. You accept treatment that makes you uncomfortable. Eventually, you lose something far more valuable than approval. You lose yourself. A high-value person understands that authenticity always attracts healthier relationships than pretending ever will. Not everyone will like the real you, but the people who do will appreciate you for who you truly are, not for the version you created to gain acceptance. That creates deeper trust, stronger friendships, and more meaningful connections. Breaking the people-pleasing habit doesn't happen overnight. It begins with small decisions. Respect your schedule, protect your energy, speak honestly, express your opinions respectfully. Decline requests that conflict with your priorities. Allow yourself to disappoint others occasionally instead of disappointing yourself every day. Each of these choices strengthens your self-respect. Each one reminds your mind that your value does not depend on constant approval. Over time, something remarkable happens. You become calmer because you no longer carry the impossible burden of managing everyone's emotions. You become more confident because your decisions reflect your values instead of your fears. Your relationships improve because they are built on honesty rather than obligation. And perhaps most importantly, people begin to trust your words. When you say yes, they know you genuinely mean it. When you say no, they understand it comes from thoughtful consideration rather than guilt. That is the power of healthy boundaries. Being a high-value person doesn't mean becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. It means learning that kindness without self-respect becomes self-sacrifice. Real generosity comes from a place of strength, not fear. So stop asking, "Will they be disappointed?" Start asking, "Am I honoring my values?" Because the moment you stop trying to please everyone is the moment you finally begin living as yourself. And there is nothing more valuable or more deserving of respect than a person who has the courage to be authentic. Chapter 4. Develop unshakable confidence. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood qualities in the world. Many people believe confident individuals are born with a special gift, that they naturally speak without fear, lead without hesitation, and walk through life without insecurity. But if you look closely at the people you admire most, you'll discover a different story. Their confidence wasn't handed to them. It was built one decision at a time through challenges, failures, and consistent action. Real confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move forward despite fear. Every successful entrepreneur has experienced uncertainty. Every respected leader has doubted themselves at some point. Every skilled performer was once a beginner who made mistakes. The difference is that they refused to let fear become the author of their lives. They acted before they felt completely ready, and with every action, their confidence grew stronger. Many people spend years waiting to feel confident before taking the next step. They tell themselves, "I'll apply for that job when I feel ready," or "I'll start my business once I'm more confident." Unfortunately, confidence doesn't appear before action. It appears because of action. Waiting for confidence before acting is like waiting to become fit before going to the gym. Growth only happens through movement. Think back to the first time you learned a new skill. Perhaps it was riding a bicycle, driving a car, speaking in front of a group, or using unfamiliar technology. In the beginning, everything felt awkward. You made mistakes, questioned yourself, and probably wondered if you would ever become good at it. But you kept practicing. Eventually, what once felt difficult became natural. Your confidence didn't come from positive thinking alone. It came from repeated experience. This principle applies to every area of life. Confidence is earned through evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you create evidence that you are reliable. Every time you face a challenge, instead of avoiding it, you create evidence that you are capable. Every time you recover from failure instead of giving up, you create evidence that you are resilient. These small victories accumulate until confidence becomes part of your identity. One of the greatest enemies of confidence is self-doubt. Almost everyone experiences an inner voice that whispers, "You're not good enough. What if you fail?" Or, "Someone else could do this better." The mistake most people make is believing that voice represents reality. In truth, self-doubt is simply a mental habit. It often appears whenever you're about to do something meaningful because growth always involves uncertainty. Imagine standing at the edge of a diving board for the first time. Your mind immediately begins listing everything that could go wrong. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tighten, and fear becomes very real. Yet the moment you finally jump, something changes. The fear that seemed overwhelming begins to lose its power. You discover that the anticipation was often more frightening than the experience itself. Life works the same way. Most fears grow larger in our imagination than they ever become in reality. The presentation you're afraid to give, the conversation you've been avoiding, the opportunity you've been postponing, they often become far less intimidating once you take the first step. Action has a remarkable way of shrinking fear. Another important lesson about confidence is learning to become comfortable with discomfort. Modern life encourages convenience. We seek the easiest route, the quickest solution, and the most comfortable option. Yet personal growth rarely happens inside the comfort zone. Muscles grow stronger through resistance. Skills improve through repetition. Character develops through adversity. Confidence follows the same pattern. Every meaningful achievement requires periods of discomfort. You may feel uncomfortable waking up early to exercise, studying after a long day, introducing yourself to new people, or speaking honestly in difficult situations. Those moments are not signs that you're doing something wrong. They are signs that you're expanding your abilities. High-value people understand that temporary discomfort often creates long-term freedom. They choose difficult conversations over silent resentment. They choose disciplined habits over instant gratification. They choose personal growth over temporary comfort because they know the rewards are far greater than the discomfort they experience along the way. Comparison is another confidence killer. In today's world, it's easy to compare your beginning to someone else's success. Social media often presents carefully edited highlights while hiding the years of struggle behind every achievement. When you constantly measure yourself against others, you'll almost always feel inadequate because you're comparing your everyday reality to someone else's best moments. Instead of comparing yourself with other people, compare yourself with the person you were yesterday. Ask whether you've become a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more disciplined, or a little more courageous. That is the comparison that truly matters. Confidence grows when you recognize your own progress rather than obsessing over someone else's journey. It's also important to understand that failure does not destroy confidence. Avoiding failure does. Every successful person carries a history of disappointments, setbacks, and mistakes. Those experiences did not weaken them. They taught valuable lessons that success never could. Failure becomes dangerous only when you allow it to define your identity instead of developing your character. When something doesn't go as planned, avoid saying, "I'm a failure." Instead ask, "What can this experience teach me?" One statement attacks your identity, while the other strengthens your future. High-value people don't see failure as proof that they're incapable. They see it as feedback that helps them improve. Your daily habits also shape your confidence more than occasional moments of motivation. Waking up when you planned, exercising consistently, reading regularly, keeping your workspace organized, and honoring your commitments may seem like small actions, but together they create a powerful message. Every disciplined habit tells your mind, "I am someone who follows through." Over time, that belief becomes unshakable. Remember that confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to boast, dominate conversations, or constantly seek attention. Truly confident people don't waste energy proving their worth because they already know it. They remain calm under pressure, admit mistakes without feeling weak, and continue learning because they understand that growth never ends. As you continue this journey, stop asking yourself whether you feel confident enough. Instead, ask whether you're willing to take the next step despite uncertainty. Every courageous decision strengthens your character. Every challenge you overcome becomes evidence of your capability. Every promise you keep to yourself reinforces your self-belief. Confidence is not something you discover one day. It is something you build every single day. Brick by brick, habit by habit, decision by decision, you create a foundation so strong that criticism cannot shake it, failure cannot destroy it, and fear can no longer control it. That is unshakable confidence, and it belongs to anyone willing to earn it. Chapter 5. Master Emotional Control. Imagine two people facing the exact same challenge. Both receive unexpected criticism during an important meeting. Both feel disappointed, frustrated, and embarrassed, yet their responses couldn't be more different. The first person immediately becomes defensive. They interrupt, raise their voice, blame others, and allow anger to take over. Long after the meeting ends, they replay the event in their mind, growing more upset with every passing hour. The second person feels the same emotions, but pauses before responding. They listen carefully, ask questions to understand the criticism, and reply with calm professionalism. After the meeting, they reflect on what they can learn and let go of the rest. Who earns more respect? The answer is obvious. The difference isn't intelligence, education, or experience. It's emotional control. One of the defining characteristics of a high-value person is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to manage emotion. They don't pretend feelings don't exist. They simply refuse to let emotions make decisions that wisdom should make. Many people believe strength means never feeling hurt, angry, disappointed, or afraid. But emotional strength has nothing to do with becoming emotionally numb. It means acknowledging your emotions without becoming controlled by them. Emotions are powerful messengers, but they make terrible leaders. Think of emotions like the weather. Some days are bright and calm. Other days bring storms, heavy rain, or strong winds. You cannot control the weather, but you can control how you prepare for it. In the same way, you cannot always control how you feel, but you can control how you respond. Unfortunately, many people spend their lives reacting instead of responding. Someone insults them, and they immediately insult back. Someone disagrees with them, and they become defensive. A small inconvenience ruins their entire day. A single mistake convinces them they are failures. When emotions become the driver of your life, your peace becomes dependent on circumstances you cannot control. High-value people choose a different path. They create a space between what happens and how they respond. That small pause changes everything. When someone criticizes them unfairly, they don't immediately fight back. They ask themselves, is this criticism useful? Is there something I can learn? If the answer is yes, they improve. If the answer is no, they move on without allowing someone else's opinion to steal their peace. That ability to pause is one of the greatest forms of emotional intelligence. Imagine two managers leading separate teams through a difficult project. Both face delays, unhappy clients, and unexpected problems. The first manager panics. Every obstacle creates frustration. They blame employees, make emotional decisions, and create an atmosphere of fear. Soon the entire team becomes anxious because emotions spread quickly. The second manager remains composed. They acknowledge the challenge without pretending everything is perfect. They focus on solutions instead of blame. Their calm attitude reassures the team, allowing everyone to think clearly under pressure. Both managers faced the same problem. Only one inspired confidence. People naturally trust those who remain steady during difficult moments. Calmness communicates strength. Emotional stability creates safety. When others know they can rely on your judgment even during stressful situations, respect naturally follows. This doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. Ignoring sadness, frustration, or disappointment isn't healthy. Bottled emotions eventually find another way to escape, often through anger, anxiety, or resentment. Emotional control means recognizing your feelings, understanding them, and expressing them in healthy ways. Instead of saying, "I'm fine," when you're clearly overwhelmed, admit what you're experiencing. Talk with someone you trust. Write your thoughts in a journal. Exercise. Pray or meditate if that aligns with your beliefs. Go for a walk. Give yourself time to process your emotions rather than pretending they don't exist. Healthy expression prevents emotional explosions. Another important skill is learning to separate facts from feelings. Imagine sending an important message that receives no reply for several hours. Your emotions immediately begin creating stories. They're ignoring me. They're upset with me. I must have done something wrong. But these are assumptions, not facts. The reality may be much simpler. They could be busy, traveling, attending meetings, or simply unavailable. When emotions take control, assumptions often replace reality. High-value people train themselves to ask, "What do I actually know?" rather than, "What am I imagining?" That simple question prevents countless misunderstandings. Emotional control also requires patience. Today's culture encourages instant reactions. Social media rewards immediate opinions. News spreads within seconds. Messages demand instant replies. Yet many of life's biggest mistakes happen because people react too quickly. An angry email sent in frustration. A relationship ended during an emotional argument. A career damaged by one impulsive decision. Most of these situations could have been avoided with one simple habit: pause before responding. Sometimes the strongest response is no immediate response at all. Sleep on the decision. Take a walk. Breathe deeply. Allow intense emotions to settle before making choices that carry lasting consequences. Remember, temporary emotions should never make permanent decisions. One of the greatest emotional challenges is handling criticism. Nobody enjoys hearing negative feedback. Our natural instinct is to defend ourselves. Yet criticism comes in two forms. Constructive criticism helps you improve. Destructive criticism simply aims to hurt. Learning the difference is essential. If someone points out a genuine weakness with the intention of helping you grow, receive it with gratitude. Every successful person has benefited from honest feedback. If someone criticizes only to insult or discourage you, don't give them the power to define your worth. Not every opinion deserves your emotional investment. The ability to filter criticism is a sign of maturity. The same principle applies to praise. While criticism shouldn't destroy your confidence, praise shouldn't become your addiction. If compliments become the source of your identity, you'll constantly depend on other people to feel valuable. Instead, appreciate recognition without becoming dependent on it. A high-value person remains grounded, whether receiving applause or criticism, because their identity is built on character, not opinions. Forgiveness is another overlooked aspect of emotional control. Holding on to resentment feels like punishing someone else, but in reality, it punishes you. Anger consumes energy, steals peace, and keeps old wounds alive. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or pretending nothing happened. It means refusing to let past pain continue controlling your present life. Sometimes the person who needs your forgiveness most is yourself. Everyone has made mistakes. Everyone has regrets. Everyone wishes they had handled certain situations differently. Learn from those experiences, but don't allow them to become permanent labels. Growth begins when you stop defining yourself by your worst moments. Finally, understand that emotional control is built through daily practice. You strengthen it every time you choose patience over impulse, every time you listen before speaking, every time you respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally, every time you refuse to let temporary feelings dictate permanent actions. These small decisions shape your character far more than dramatic moments ever will. People may forget what you said. They may even forget what you accomplished. But they rarely forget how you made them feel during difficult times. Were you calm when others panicked? Were you thoughtful when others became defensive? Were you steady when circumstances became uncertain? That quiet strength leaves a lasting impression. Mastering your emotions does not make you less human. It makes you more intentional. And the person who can master their own emotions possesses something more valuable than influence, wealth, or status. They possess mastery over themselves. That is the kind of strength no one can take away, and it is one of the greatest qualities of a truly high-value person. Chapter 6. Communicate like a high-value person. Your words introduce you long before people truly know you. Within the first few minutes of meeting someone, people begin forming impressions about your confidence, competence, and character. Not only from what you say, but from how you say it. Your tone, posture, eye contact, and ability to listen all communicate something about you. This is why communication is far more than speaking. It is the art of expressing yourself with clarity, confidence, and respect. A high-value person understands that communication is not about dominating conversations or always having the perfect answer. It is about creating understanding. They know that the strongest communicator in the room is often not the loudest person, but the one who makes others feel heard, respected, and understood. Many people believe they need to speak more to appear confident. In reality, confident people often speak less, but say more. They choose their words carefully. They avoid unnecessary drama, gossip, and constant complaining because they understand that words shape reputation. Every conversation either adds to your credibility or quietly weakens it. Think about the people you naturally respect. They don't interrupt every conversation to prove they're right. They don't constantly seek attention by talking over others. Instead, they speak with purpose. When they offer an opinion, it has weight because they have learned the value of thoughtful silence. One of the greatest communication skills is learning to listen. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. While someone else is speaking, they're already preparing their next argument or thinking about what they want to say next. As a result, conversations become competitions instead of connections. High-value people approach conversations differently. They become fully present. They pay attention without constantly checking their phones or looking around the room. They allow others to finish speaking before responding. They ask thoughtful questions instead of making quick assumptions. This simple habit makes people feel valued because genuine listening is one of the rarest forms of respect. Imagine meeting two professionals at a networking event. The first person spends the entire conversation talking about their achievements, their business, and their opinions. Every opportunity becomes another chance to impress. The second person asks meaningful questions, listens carefully to the answers, remembers important details, and responds thoughtfully. They still share their own experiences, but they never make the conversation entirely about themselves. Who would you rather meet again? Most people choose the second person because everyone appreciates feeling understood. The ability to listen creates stronger relationships than the ability to impress. Clarity is another characteristic of high-value communication. Many people hide behind vague language because they fear being misunderstood or rejected. They hesitate, over-explain, and apologize unnecessarily. Their message becomes weaker because they lack certainty. A high-value person communicates clearly and respectfully. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry, but maybe if it's okay, I was wondering if perhaps we could," they simply say, "I'd like to discuss an idea," or "I won't be available today." Notice the difference. Clarity isn't rude. Confidence doesn't require harshness. Being direct while remaining respectful demonstrates maturity. Another important habit is eliminating unnecessary filler words and insecure language. Phrases like, "I don't know if this makes sense," "This is probably a stupid idea," or "I'm probably wrong, but," quietly weaken your message before you've even finished speaking. Of course, humility is important. No one knows everything. But there is a difference between humility and insecurity. Humility says, "I'm open to learning." Insecurity says, "My opinion has no value." High-value people remain teachable without diminishing themselves. Body language is equally powerful. Research and everyday experience both show that much of communication happens without words. People notice your posture, facial expressions, gestures, and eye contact before they analyze your sentences. Imagine walking into an interview. One candidate enters with slouched shoulders, avoids eye contact, and speaks so quietly that the interviewer struggles to hear. Another candidate walks in calmly, stands upright, smiles naturally, offers a confident handshake when appropriate, maintains comfortable eye contact, and speaks clearly. Even if both candidates have identical qualifications, the second person immediately creates a stronger impression. Why? Because confidence is communicated long before it is spoken. This doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. Authentic confidence isn't about acting powerful. It's about allowing your body language to reflect the self-respect you've been building. Stand tall because you respect yourself. Maintain eye contact because you're engaged, not because you're trying to intimidate. Smile genuinely because confidence doesn't need a mask of seriousness. Your body should support your message, not contradict it. Another essential communication skill is emotional restraint. Not every thought deserves to be spoken. Not every disagreement requires an argument. Not every criticism deserves a response. One of the greatest signs of maturity is knowing when silence is more powerful than words. Imagine someone insults you in public, hoping to provoke an emotional reaction. If you immediately respond with anger, you've allowed them to control your behavior. But if you remain calm, respond respectfully, or choose not to engage at all, you demonstrate emotional strength. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is wisdom. This principle also applies to difficult conversations. Many people avoid uncomfortable discussions because they fear conflict. As a result, problems grow larger over time. High-value people understand that respectful honesty strengthens relationships. If a misunderstanding occurs, they address it directly. If someone crosses a boundary, they communicate it calmly. If they make a mistake, they admit it without making excuses. Honest communication builds trust because people know where they stand with you. Learning to ask good questions is another overlooked skill. Questions demonstrate curiosity, humility, and genuine interest. Instead of trying to appear knowledgeable in every conversation, ask questions that encourage others to think more deeply. What inspired you to make that decision? What lesson did you learn from that experience? How did you overcome that challenge? Questions like these create meaningful conversations because they move beyond surface-level small talk. People remember those who make them think. Another important habit is avoiding gossip. Gossip may create temporary entertainment, but it quietly damages credibility. When you regularly speak negatively about others, people naturally wonder what you say about them when they're absent. High-value people refuse to build relationships through criticism. Instead, they focus on ideas, solutions, and encouragement. This doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means discussing issues with integrity instead of spreading unnecessary negativity. Your communication should leave people feeling respected, not diminished. Remember that words have lasting consequences. A few careless sentences can damage trust built over many years. Likewise, a few sincere words of encouragement can change someone's entire day or even their life. Choose your words carefully, because once spoken, they cannot be taken back. As your communication improves, something remarkable begins to happen. People listen more closely when you speak because they know your words have purpose. They trust your opinions because you've earned credibility through honesty and consistency. They feel comfortable around you because you communicate with respect instead of ego. You no longer feel the need to dominate conversations or constantly prove yourself. Your confidence allows you to listen, learn, and contribute without seeking attention. In the end, communication is not about sounding impressive. It is about being understood. It is about making people feel valued without sacrificing your own voice. It is about expressing truth with kindness, confidence with humility, and strength with respect. When your words, your body language, and your character all tell the same story, you become someone people naturally trust. And trust is one of the greatest forms of respect a high-value person can ever earn. Chapter 7. Create a life that doesn't need approval. One of the greatest freedoms you will ever experience is realizing that you don't need everyone's approval to live a meaningful life. This truth sounds simple, yet very few people truly believe it. Many spend years chasing recognition, trying to impress strangers, seeking compliments, and comparing themselves to people they barely know. They shape their decisions around what others might think, hoping that one more achievement, one more promotion, one more compliment, or one more social media post will finally make them feel enough. But approval is a moving target. The moment you earn it from one person, you'll begin worrying about someone else's opinion. The praise that made you happy yesterday quickly fades, leaving you searching for the next source of validation. If your happiness depends on external approval, your peace will always be temporary because other people's opinions are constantly changing. A high-value person understands a powerful principle. External approval is unpredictable, but internal approval is always within your control. This shift changes everything. Instead of asking, "Do people like me?" you begin asking, "Am I becoming the person I want to be?" Instead of measuring success by applause, you measure it by growth. Instead of living to impress others, you begin living according to your values. That is the beginning of genuine freedom. One of the biggest obstacles to internal confidence is comparison. Comparison is a habit that quietly steals joy from countless lives. It convinces you that someone else's success somehow diminishes your own. You compare your income, appearance, career, relationships, achievements, and lifestyle, forgetting that every person's journey is different. Today's digital world makes this even more dangerous. Every day, you're exposed to carefully edited highlights of other people's lives. You see vacations without the financial stress, promotions without the years of sacrifice, smiling families without the disagreements, and successful businesses without the countless failures behind them. You're comparing your everyday reality to someone else's best moments. That comparison is never fair. Imagine two content creators starting their journeys at the same time. The first creator constantly changes direction, chasing whatever trend is popular. Every decision is based on gaining more likes, more followers, and more attention. They create content they don't even enjoy because they believe popularity is the same as success. The second creator chooses a different path. They focus on creating meaningful work that reflects their values and interests. Their growth may be slower in the beginning, but they remain consistent because they are driven by purpose rather than public opinion. Years later, the second creator has built something much more valuable than popularity. They have built authenticity. People trust them because they know exactly what they stand for. That is the difference between chasing approval and building purpose. Purpose gives you direction. Approval gives you distraction. When you know why you're doing something, criticism becomes easier to handle because your mission is stronger than your fear. Ask yourself an important question. If nobody applauded your efforts, would you still pursue your goals? Would you still exercise if no one noticed your physical transformation? Would you still read books if nobody praised your intelligence? Would you still work with integrity if no one rewarded your honesty? Your answers reveal whether your motivation comes from purpose or approval. Internal validation begins with keeping your standards independent of other people's opinions. Some days people will praise you. Other days they will criticize you. Neither should determine your identity. Your identity should be rooted in principles that remain stable regardless of circumstances. This requires learning to define success for yourself. Society often tells you that success means wealth, status, luxury, or public recognition. While those things can be enjoyable, they are poor foundations for self-worth because they depend on factors that can change overnight. A more meaningful definition of success asks different questions. Did you become wiser today? Did you keep your promises? Did you act with integrity? Did you treat others with respect? Did you move one step closer to your purpose? These are measurements that no one else can control. Living without constantly seeking approval also means becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. No matter how honest, generous, or thoughtful you are, some people will misunderstand your intentions. Some will disagree with your choices. Others may criticize you simply because your growth reminds them of the changes they have been avoiding. That is part of life. Trying to eliminate all criticism is impossible. Living according to your values despite criticism is freedom. One reason people fear judgment is because they assume everyone is paying close attention to their lives. The reality is much different. Most people are focused on their own challenges, insecurities, responsibilities, and dreams. They are not analyzing your every decision nearly as much as you imagine. Recognizing this can be incredibly liberating. It allows you to take risks. It gives you permission to make mistakes. It encourages you to pursue opportunities that truly matter instead of those that merely impress others. Living for yourself does not mean ignoring other people. It means refusing to abandon your values just to gain acceptance. You can remain kind without becoming a people pleaser. You can remain humble without diminishing yourself. You can remain open to feedback without becoming dependent on praise. That balance is one of the defining qualities of a high-value person. Creating internal validation also requires spending time alone. Many people avoid solitude because silence forces them to face themselves. They constantly seek entertainment, conversations, or distractions because they are uncomfortable with their own thoughts. Yet solitude is where self-awareness grows. It is where you evaluate your choices, clarify your goals, and strengthen your character. When you enjoy your own company, you stop depending on constant external reassurance. You become your own source of encouragement. Gradually, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop making decisions based on fear of judgment. You stop comparing your journey with everyone else's. You celebrate other people's success without feeling threatened. You become more authentic because you no longer feel pressured to perform for an audience. People notice the difference. Ironically, the less you seek approval, the more respect you often receive. Why? Because confidence is attractive, purpose is inspiring, authenticity is memorable. People naturally trust those who remain true to themselves instead of constantly changing to fit every situation. At the end of each day, there is one opinion that matters more than any other: your own. When you look in the mirror, can you honestly say that you acted with integrity? Did you remain faithful to your values? Did you choose courage over comfort? Did you become a little better than you were yesterday? If the answer is yes, then you are already succeeding, because a life built on purpose will always outlast a life built on approval. And when your confidence comes from within, respect is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you naturally attract. Chapter 8. Earn trust through integrity. Respect can be given in a moment, but trust must be earned over time. It isn't built through impressive speeches, attractive appearances, or bold promises. It grows slowly, through countless small decisions that prove your character. Every action you take tells people who you are. Eventually, your reputation becomes the sum of those actions. If you want to become a high-value person, there is no quality more important than integrity. Integrity means doing the right thing even when no one is watching. It means your values remain consistent whether you're standing in front of a crowd or sitting alone in an empty room. It means your words and your actions tell the same story. A person with integrity doesn't change their principles to match the situation. They don't become honest only when honesty is convenient, and they don't become trustworthy only when trust benefits them. Their character remains steady because it is built on conviction rather than circumstances. Many people believe success comes from being talented, intelligent, or well-connected. While those qualities certainly matter, they are not enough to create lasting respect. A talented person without integrity eventually loses credibility. A skilled leader who cannot be trusted will eventually lose followers. A successful business built on deception may grow quickly, but it rarely survives for long. Character is the foundation that supports every other achievement. Without it, success becomes fragile. Imagine two business owners. Both are equally skilled, both provide excellent products, and both have the opportunity to increase their profits. One chooses to cut corners by hiding defects, making promises they know they cannot keep, and placing short-term gain above customer satisfaction. The other remains honest, even when honesty costs money. They admit mistakes, solve problems quickly, and refuse to compromise their values for temporary rewards. During difficult times, which business do customers continue supporting? In most cases, they choose the one they trust because trust creates loyalty that money alone cannot buy. Integrity begins with keeping your word. Every promise you make is an opportunity to strengthen or weaken your reputation. This doesn't mean you must promise everything to everyone. In fact, high-value people make fewer promises because they understand the importance of honoring every commitment. When they say they will do something, people believe them because experience has taught others that their word carries weight. Keeping your word also applies to the promises you make to yourself. Earlier in this audiobook, we discussed how self-respect grows when you follow through on personal commitments. Integrity strengthens that process even further. Every time you honor your goals, maintain your habits, or stay faithful to your principles despite temptation, you reinforce the belief that your character can be trusted. The relationship you build with yourself becomes the foundation for every relationship you build with others. Honesty is another essential part of integrity, but honesty is often misunderstood. Some people use the phrase, "I'm just being honest," as an excuse to be rude, insensitive, or disrespectful. Genuine honesty is different. It communicates truth with kindness. It avoids deception without abandoning compassion. A high-value person understands that honesty should strengthen relationships whenever possible, not unnecessarily damage them. There will be moments when honesty feels uncomfortable. You may have to admit a mistake at work, acknowledge poor judgment, or accept responsibility for something that went wrong. Your first instinct may be to protect your image by making excuses or blaming someone else. Resist that temptation. Every excuse weakens your credibility. Every act of accountability strengthens it. People don't expect perfection, they expect responsibility. Consider a leader whose team makes an expensive mistake. One leader immediately blames employees, protecting their own reputation while damaging trust throughout the organization. Another leader accepts responsibility, works alongside the team to solve the problem, and focuses on learning rather than blaming. The second leader may experience temporary embarrassment, but they gain something much more valuable: lasting trust. People willingly follow leaders who accept responsibility because accountability creates confidence. Consistency is where integrity becomes visible. Anyone can make a good decision once. Anyone can display kindness when life is easy. Integrity is revealed through repeated actions over long periods of time. It's choosing honesty every day. It's treating people with respect, whether they can benefit you or not. It's maintaining your standards when no one is there to reward or punish your behavior. Consistency transforms isolated actions into a recognizable character. Many people underestimate the importance of small choices. They believe integrity is tested only during major life events, but character is usually built in ordinary moments. Returning extra change that a cashier accidentally gave you, arriving on time for meetings, refusing to gossip about co-workers, admitting when you don't know something, and respecting commitments that no one else remembers. These small actions quietly shape the person you become. They also shape how others perceive you. One reason integrity is difficult is because it often requires sacrificing immediate rewards for long-term respect. Telling the truth may cost you an opportunity. Standing by your values may make you unpopular. Refusing to compromise your ethics may seem like the harder path. Yet history consistently shows that people with strong character build stronger reputations, healthier relationships, and more meaningful success than those who constantly seek shortcuts. Character also reveals itself in how you treat people who cannot offer you anything in return. It is easy to be polite to someone with influence or authority. It is far more revealing to observe how someone treats a waiter, a cleaner, a receptionist, or a stranger. High-value people understand that respect should never depend on someone's social status. Every person deserves dignity because character is measured by how you treat others when there is nothing to gain. Integrity also means resisting the temptation to become different versions of yourself in different environments. Some people are honest at home but dishonest at work. Others speak respectfully in public, but gossip in private. A high-value person doesn't wear masks to fit every situation. Their values remain consistent because authenticity creates peace of mind. When your actions align with your beliefs, you no longer waste energy pretending to be someone else. Another important aspect of integrity is having the courage to say no when necessary. There will be times when friends encourage you to compromise your standards, co-workers pressure you to ignore ethical concerns, or society rewards behavior that conflicts with your values. In those moments, integrity requires quiet courage. It may not earn immediate applause, but it preserves something far more valuable: your self-respect. As your integrity grows, something remarkable begins to happen. People seek your advice because they trust your judgment. They believe your promises because you've consistently honored them. They feel safe sharing responsibilities because they know you won't abandon your principles when circumstances become difficult. Opportunities often come to those who are trusted because trust reduces uncertainty. In business, leadership, friendships, and families, reliability becomes a rare and valuable asset. Perhaps the greatest reward of integrity isn't the respect you receive from others. It's the peace you experience within yourself. There is incredible freedom in knowing you don't have to remember lies, maintain false appearances, or constantly protect an image you've created. You can simply be yourself because your life is built on honesty rather than performance. At the end of every day, ask yourself a simple question. Did my actions match my values today? If the answer is yes, you are strengthening the most valuable reputation you will ever possess. If the answer is no, accept responsibility, learn from the experience, and choose differently tomorrow. Integrity isn't about never making mistakes. It's about refusing to let mistakes become your identity. A high-value person understands that respect earned through appearances eventually fades, but respect earned through character lasts a lifetime. Skills may open doors, talent may create opportunities, and charisma may attract attention, but integrity is what keeps those doors open. When your words, actions, and values move together in perfect alignment, trust becomes inevitable, and where trust exists, genuine respect naturally follows. Chapter 9. Raise your standards for relationships. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your relationships. Every person you allow into your life influences the way you think, feel, and act. Some relationships encourage you to grow, challenge you to become better, and remind you of your potential. Others slowly drain your confidence, consume your energy, and pull you away from the person you're trying to become. This is why becoming a high-value person isn't only about improving yourself. It's also about choosing the people who walk beside you. Many people believe loyalty means staying connected to everyone, no matter how they treat you. While loyalty is an admirable quality, it should never require you to sacrifice your dignity, your peace, or your values. Remaining in relationships that consistently disrespect you is not loyalty, it is self-neglect. One of the clearest signs of self-respect is having standards for the people you allow into your life. Standards are not about believing you're better than anyone else. They are about recognizing what behaviors support your growth and what behaviors slowly destroy it. High-value people don't expect perfection from others because they understand that everyone has flaws. However, they do expect honesty, mutual respect, accountability, and genuine care. These qualities form the foundation of healthy relationships. Think about two different groups of friends. The first group constantly competes with one another. Success is met with jealousy instead of celebration. Conversations revolve around gossip, criticism, and negativity. Boundaries are ignored, promises are broken, and encouragement is rare. Spending time with them leaves you emotionally exhausted. The second group is different. They celebrate each other's achievements without feeling threatened. They offer honest advice instead of empty compliments. They respect boundaries, keep their word, and encourage one another during difficult times. After spending time together, everyone feels motivated to become a better version of themselves. Which environment would help you grow? The answer is obvious. Relationships either increase your confidence or slowly erode it. They either reinforce your values or pressure you to compromise them. Every interaction quietly shapes your mindset, which is why choosing your circle carefully is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. One of the hardest lessons in life is accepting that not every relationship is meant to last forever. People change, priorities change, values change. Sometimes the healthiest decision is to let go of relationships that no longer support your growth. This doesn't mean ending friendships over small disagreements or walking away whenever things become difficult. Every healthy relationship requires patience, forgiveness, and honest communication. But there is a difference between working through normal challenges and remaining in a relationship that consistently damages your emotional well-being. Toxic relationships often reveal themselves through repeated patterns rather than isolated incidents. Perhaps someone constantly criticizes your goals. Maybe they only contact you when they need something. Perhaps they ignore your boundaries, manipulate your emotions, or make you feel guilty for pursuing your dreams. Over time, these behaviors become emotionally exhausting. Many people remain in these relationships because they fear loneliness. Ironically, staying in unhealthy relationships often creates a deeper kind of loneliness, the loneliness of never feeling truly understood or respected. Being alone for a season is often healthier than surrounding yourself with people who constantly diminish your self-worth. A high-value person understands that peace is more valuable than popularity. Another important principle is learning to recognize the difference between support and approval. Supportive people encourage you to become your best self. Approval-seeking relationships expect you to remain the same so everyone else stays comfortable. Imagine you've decided to improve your life. You begin exercising regularly, reading more books, developing new skills, and setting healthier boundaries. Some people will celebrate your growth. Others may become uncomfortable. Why? Because your progress reminds them of the changes they have been avoiding. Don't mistake their discomfort for your responsibility. Growth often changes relationships. The people who genuinely care about you will adapt, encourage, and respect your new standards. Those who only valued the old version of you may slowly drift away. Allow them. Your future deserves relationships that align with the person you're becoming, not the person you've outgrown. Healthy relationships also require honest communication. Many conflicts don't arise because people disagree. They arise because people avoid difficult conversations. They assume others should automatically understand their feelings, expectations, or boundaries. When disappointment follows, resentment quietly begins to grow. High-value people communicate openly. If something feels wrong, they address it respectfully. If they make a mistake, they apologize sincerely. If someone crosses a boundary, they communicate it calmly instead of allowing frustration to build. Honest conversations may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but they prevent much greater problems later. Trust grows where honesty exists. Mutual respect also requires reciprocity. Healthy relationships are not one-sided. One person shouldn't always be giving while the other only receives. One person shouldn't always apologize while the other never accepts responsibility. One person shouldn't always sacrifice while the other constantly demands. Balance matters. This doesn't mean every relationship will be perfectly equal every day. Life naturally creates seasons when one person gives more support than the other. However, over time, healthy relationships demonstrate mutual care, mutual effort, and mutual respect. Pay close attention to how people respond when you succeed. Success reveals character. Some people celebrate your achievements as though they were their own. Others become distant, competitive, or quietly resentful. The people who sincerely celebrate your victories without jealousy are often the people worth keeping close. Likewise, pay attention to who remains present during your difficult seasons. Many people enjoy the benefits of your success. Far fewer remain beside you during hardship. True relationships are tested during adversity, not comfort. Remember that the relationship you have with yourself sets the standard for every other relationship in your life. If you don't respect your own time, others may not respect it either. If you constantly ignore your own boundaries, others will likely ignore them too. If you believe you deserve poor treatment, you'll often accept it without question. Everything begins with self-respect. As your self-worth grows, your relationships naturally begin to change. You become less interested in impressing people and more interested in connecting with people who share your values. You stop chasing acceptance from everyone. You stop fearing the loss of relationships that require you to betray yourself. Instead, you begin building friendships, partnerships, and professional connections rooted in honesty, encouragement, accountability, and trust. That is where genuine belonging exists. At the end of the day, your life will largely reflect the people you spend the most time with. Choose those who challenge your excuses instead of supporting them. Choose those who inspire your growth instead of your comfort. Choose those who respect your values instead of testing them. Most importantly, become the kind of person you hope to find in others. Because when you consistently live with integrity, communicate honestly, and treat people with respect, you naturally attract relationships built on the same foundation. And those relationships will not only enrich your life, they will help you become the high-value person you were always capable of becoming. Chapter 10. Increase your personal value every day. One of the biggest misconceptions about becoming a high-value person is the belief that value is something you either have or you don't. Many people think confidence, influence, and success belong only to those who were born with exceptional talent, wealth, or opportunity. The truth is far more encouraging. Personal value is not fixed. It is built. Every day, through your habits, your mindset, your skills, and your choices, you either increase your value or allow it to remain the same. Becoming a high-value person isn't about pretending to be important. It's about becoming genuinely useful, reliable, and capable. The more value you create for yourself and others, the more opportunities naturally begin to appear. Think about the people who are respected in their professions. They are rarely admired simply because of their titles. They are respected because they consistently solve problems, make good decisions, and contribute in meaningful ways. Whether they are entrepreneurs, teachers, doctors, engineers, artists, or leaders, they have developed abilities that improve the lives of others. Their value comes from what they can offer, not from what they own. This is an important shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "How can I become more successful?" begin asking, "How can I become more valuable?" Success is often a result of value. When you become someone who solves difficult problems, communicates effectively, acts with integrity, and continues to grow, success often follows as a natural consequence. One of the fastest ways to increase your value is by developing rare and useful skills. Every skill you learn expands your opportunities. Communication, leadership, problem-solving, financial literacy, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, negotiation, and time management are examples of abilities that remain valuable regardless of changes in technology or the economy. These skills make you adaptable, and adaptability is one of the greatest advantages in an unpredictable world. Imagine two employees working in the same company. Both have similar educational backgrounds and years of experience. The first employee does only what is required. They avoid learning new systems, resist change, and rely entirely on the knowledge they already possess. The second employee approaches work differently. They volunteer for challenging projects, learn new software, improve their communication skills, and continuously seek ways to become more effective. 5 years later, who is more likely to receive new opportunities? In most cases, the answer is obvious. The person who never stopped learning becomes far more valuable because growth compounds over time. This principle applies to every area of life. Reading books expands your thinking. Learning a new language broadens your perspective. Improving your financial knowledge strengthens your independence. Developing emotional intelligence improves every relationship. Every new skill becomes another investment in your future. That is why lifelong learning is one of the defining habits of high-value people. They never assume they know enough. No matter how successful they become, they remain curious. They ask questions, they seek mentors, they study new ideas, they understand that the world continues changing, and those who stop learning eventually stop growing. Curiosity keeps your mind alive. Another important aspect of increasing your value is becoming reliable. Talent may attract attention, but reliability earns trust. Imagine working with someone who always arrives on time, meets deadlines, keeps promises, communicates honestly, and consistently delivers quality work. Now imagine someone equally talented who frequently misses deadlines, forgets commitments, and makes excuses whenever problems arise. Who would you choose to work with? Most people would choose reliability over raw talent. Dependability is a rare quality because it requires discipline rather than motivation. Motivation changes from day to day. Discipline creates consistency. High-value people understand that excellence is rarely built through occasional extraordinary effort. It is built through ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. Another way to increase your personal value is by taking ownership of your life. Many people spend years blaming circumstances, employers, governments, family members, or bad luck for their lack of progress. While external challenges certainly exist, constantly blaming them creates helplessness. Ownership creates power. When you accept responsibility for your growth, your learning, your finances, your health, and your attitude, you regain control over your future. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I do next?" That single question shifts your attention from problems to possibilities. Value also grows through discipline. Small daily habits often create extraordinary long-term results. Reading 10 pages every day may not seem impressive, but over a year it becomes several books filled with new knowledge. Saving a small amount of money consistently creates financial stability over time. Exercising regularly strengthens both physical health and mental resilience. Practicing a skill every day gradually transforms competence into mastery. These habits may seem ordinary, but they separate people who continuously improve from those who remain stuck. Another characteristic of high-value people is that they focus on contribution rather than recognition. Many people ask, "What can I get?" High-value people ask, "What can I give?" How can they solve problems? How can they help their team succeed? How can they make life better for the people around them? Ironically, those who focus on creating value often receive the recognition they were never chasing. Contribution builds reputation. Selfishness weakens it. Humility also plays an important role in personal growth. The moment you believe you've learned everything is the moment your progress begins to slow. High-value people remain confident enough to share their knowledge while humble enough to admit they still have much to learn. They don't view learning as proof of weakness. They view it as proof of wisdom. Another important investment is your physical and mental health. Your body and mind are the foundation for everything you hope to accomplish. Without energy, focus, and emotional balance, even the greatest opportunities become difficult to pursue. Regular exercise, healthy nutrition, quality sleep, and stress management are not luxuries. They are investments that increase your ability to contribute at your highest level. Protect them. Surrounding yourself with growth-minded people also accelerates your personal value. Ambitious people inspire ambition. Disciplined people encourage discipline. Honest people strengthen your own integrity. The people around you influence your standards, your expectations, and even your beliefs about what is possible. Choose your environment wisely. Finally, remember that increasing your value is not a destination. It is a lifelong commitment. There will always be another skill to learn, another weakness to improve, another lesson to understand, and another opportunity to serve. That is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. Growth keeps life meaningful. Every day offers a new opportunity to become a little wiser, a little stronger, and a little more capable than you were yesterday. Don't compare your progress with anyone else's. Measure your success by your willingness to keep improving. Because every book you read, every promise you keep, every skill you develop, every challenge you overcome, and every act of integrity you practice adds another layer to your personal value. When you consistently invest in yourself, you no longer need to convince people that you're valuable. Your knowledge speaks. Your character speaks. Your discipline speaks. Your results speak. And over time, the opportunities, respect, and influence you once chased begin to find you naturally. Not because you demanded them, but because you became the kind of person who truly deserves them. Chapter 11. Lead with quiet strength. When most people think about leadership, they imagine someone standing on a stage, giving powerful speeches, making bold decisions, or commanding the attention of a crowded room. They associate leadership with titles, authority, or public recognition. While these things can certainly accompany leadership, they are not what defines it. True leadership begins long before someone gives you a position. It begins with the way you lead yourself. A high-value person understands that leadership is not about controlling people. It is about influencing them through character. People may obey authority because they have to, but they follow integrity because they choose to. This is why some individuals inspire trust without ever holding an impressive title. Their consistency, humility, and quiet confidence naturally encourage others to listen. One of the greatest misconceptions about influence is that you must constantly prove yourself. Many people believe they need to dominate conversations, display their achievements, or make sure everyone notices their accomplishments. They assume that visibility automatically creates respect. In reality, the opposite is often true. People who constantly seek attention usually reveal insecurity rather than confidence. They depend on recognition to feel important. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to impress. Every success becomes something to announce. Every disagreement becomes something to win. A high-value person has no such need. Their confidence comes from within, not from applause. They allow their actions to speak louder than their words. Instead of trying to convince everyone they are capable, they quietly demonstrate competence through consistency. Imagine two team leaders beginning a new project. The first leader constantly reminds everyone that they are in charge. They interrupt meetings, dismiss other people's ideas, and make sure every success is credited to them. At first, people obey because of the leader's position. Over time, however, trust begins to disappear. Employees become hesitant to share ideas, motivation declines, and collaboration suffers because people feel undervalued. The second leader behaves very differently. They set clear expectations, listen carefully to every team member, and remain open to suggestions. When someone performs well, they openly give credit. When mistakes happen, they focus on finding solutions rather than assigning blame. They don't seek attention, yet everyone naturally respects them because their leadership creates confidence rather than fear. The difference is not authority. It is character. Quiet strength is built on emotional stability. Earlier in this audiobook, we explored the importance of mastering your emotions. Leadership puts that lesson into practice every single day. People naturally look toward the calmest person during moments of uncertainty. When everyone else begins to panic, the person who remains composed becomes a source of confidence for others. Imagine being on an airplane during unexpected turbulence. Passengers become nervous, conversations stop, and uncertainty fills the cabin. Then you notice the flight attendants calmly continuing their responsibilities without panic. Their composure immediately changes how you feel. Nothing about the turbulence has changed, yet your confidence increases because someone else remained calm. Leadership works the same way. Your emotional stability often becomes the emotional anchor for the people around you. This doesn't mean pretending problems don't exist. It means refusing to allow fear to control your decisions. Quiet strength acknowledges reality while maintaining hope. It faces challenges honestly while remaining focused on solutions instead of panic. Another characteristic of quiet leaders is humility. Humility is often misunderstood as weakness or lack of confidence. In reality, humility is one of the greatest demonstrations of confidence because secure people don't need to prove their importance. They are willing to admit mistakes, ask questions, and learn from others because their identity is not threatened by growth. Think about the strongest mentors you've known. They probably didn't pretend to know everything. Instead, they listened. They asked thoughtful questions. They encouraged others to develop their own abilities rather than creating dependence. That is the mark of genuine leadership. A quiet leader understands that success is not measured by how many people serve them. It is measured by how many people become stronger because of them. Generosity also plays an important role in leading with quiet strength. Some people guard knowledge because they fear becoming replaceable. They believe sharing information reduces their value. High-value people think differently. They understand that teaching others increases everyone's value, including their own. They willingly mentor, encourage, and support those around them because they recognize that influence grows through contribution, not competition. One of the most powerful leadership habits is consistency. Anyone can inspire people during moments of excitement. True leaders inspire trust during ordinary days. They arrive prepared. They honor commitments. They treat people respectfully whether anyone is watching or not. They maintain the same principles in private that they display in public. Consistency creates predictability, and predictability creates trust. Another important quality is the willingness to accept responsibility. When something goes wrong, insecure leaders immediately search for someone to blame. Their first priority is protecting their image. Strong leaders ask a different question. What can we learn from this? They understand that mistakes are opportunities for improvement rather than opportunities for humiliation. By accepting responsibility, they create an environment where honesty becomes safe and learning becomes possible. Quiet strength also requires patience. Not every disagreement needs an immediate victory. Not every criticism deserves a defensive response. Sometimes the wisest decision is to listen carefully, gather information, and respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. People respect those who think before they speak because thoughtful responses reflect maturity. Leading with quiet strength also means staying true to your values when circumstances become difficult. It's easy to display integrity when everything is going well. Real character appears when honesty becomes expensive, when standing by your principles creates discomfort, or when doing the right thing requires personal sacrifice. These moments define leadership. People may not remember every speech you give or every decision you make, but they will remember whether you remained faithful to your values when it mattered most. As you continue becoming a high-value person, remember that influence is earned one interaction at a time. Every respectful conversation strengthens your credibility. Every promise you keep builds trust. Every challenge you handle with calmness increases confidence. Every act of humility deepens respect. Leadership is not a performance. It is a pattern. It is revealed through ordinary actions repeated consistently over many years. In the end, the most influential people are rarely the loudest voices in the room. They are the calmest, the most dependable, the most honest, the most disciplined, the most respectful. Their presence alone creates confidence because people know exactly what they stand for. Become that kind of person. Lead yourself with discipline before trying to lead others. Serve before seeking recognition. Listen before speaking. Encourage before criticizing. Choose integrity over popularity. And let your actions become so consistent that your reputation introduces you before you ever say a word. That is quiet strength. It doesn't demand respect. It earns it. And the influence built on that foundation will last far longer than any title, position, or applause ever could. Chapter 12. Become the person respect naturally follows. By now, you've probably realized that becoming a high-value person has very little to do with status, money, popularity, or appearance. It isn't about learning clever techniques to impress people or finding ways to force others to admire you. True respect cannot be demanded, manipulated, or borrowed. It is earned quietly through the person you choose to become every single day. Throughout this journey, you've learned that respect begins with self-respect. It grows through emotional discipline, honest communication, strong boundaries, integrity, continuous growth, and purposeful living. None of these qualities appear overnight. They are built one decision at a time until they become part of your identity. Eventually, you no longer perform these habits because you have to. You practice them because they represent who you are. This is perhaps the greatest transformation of all. Most people focus on changing their results. High-value people focus on changing their identity. Instead of saying, "I want people to respect me," they ask, "What kind of person deserves respect?" That single question changes the direction of an entire life. Your identity is shaped by your daily habits. Every action you repeat becomes a vote for the person you're becoming. Every morning you wake up with discipline instead of excuses, you strengthen your character. Every difficult conversation you handle with honesty instead of avoidance reinforces your integrity. Every promise you keep to yourself deepens your confidence. These choices may seem small in the moment, but over time they create extraordinary results. Imagine a craftsman building a beautiful wooden table. They don't rush the process or hope the final product somehow becomes excellent on its own. Every measurement is taken carefully. Every cut is made with intention. Every piece is polished with patience. The quality of the finished table is determined by thousands of careful decisions that nobody else ever sees. Character is built the same way. The world notices the finished product, but very few people witness the daily habits that created it. High-value people understand this. They don't become disciplined only when others are watching. They don't become honest only when honesty is rewarded. They don't become kind only when kindness is convenient. Their standards remain consistent because they understand that private habits eventually become public reputation. One of the greatest dangers after achieving personal growth is becoming complacent. It's easy to believe you've learned enough or improved enough. But becoming a high-value person is not a destination you eventually reach. It is a lifelong commitment to improvement. Every stage of life presents new lessons. Success teaches responsibility. Failure teaches resilience. Relationships teach patience. Leadership teaches humility. Challenges teach courage. As long as you're willing to learn, you continue becoming stronger. This is why growth should always become your measurement of success. Many people measure success by comparing themselves to others. They compare salaries, careers, homes, possessions, or social status. But comparison is an endless competition because there will always be someone with more. A wiser question is much simpler. Are you becoming a better person than you were yesterday? Are you more disciplined than you were last year? Are you more patient than you used to be? Do you communicate more honestly? Do you keep your promises more consistently? Do you handle criticism with greater maturity? These are the measurements that truly matter because they remain within your control. One day, people may forget your achievements. They may forget your job title. They may forget how much money you earned. But they will remember your character. They will remember whether you treated them with respect. They will remember whether your words matched your actions. They will remember whether you remained trustworthy when life became difficult. Character leaves a longer legacy than success ever can. Think about the people who have had the greatest influence on your life. Chances are you don't admire them simply because they were wealthy or famous. You remember them because they demonstrated qualities that inspired you. Perhaps they remained calm during difficult times. Perhaps they believed in you when you doubted yourself. Perhaps they treated everyone with kindness regardless of status. Their influence came from who they were, not merely from what they accomplished. Now consider the legacy you want to leave behind. Do you want people to remember someone who constantly chased approval or someone who stood firmly by their values? Do you want to be known for seeking attention or for giving encouragement? Do you want your confidence to depend on applause or on the quiet satisfaction of knowing you lived with integrity? Every day gives you another opportunity to answer those questions through your actions. Remember that respect is not something you pursue directly. It is a byproduct of living well. When you develop discipline, people notice. When you communicate honestly, people trust you. When you honor your commitments, people rely on you. When you treat others with dignity while refusing to compromise your own values, people naturally admire your character. Ironically, the less you chase respect, the more likely you are to receive it. This is because genuine confidence is attractive. People are drawn to those who know who they are without needing constant validation. They respect individuals who remain humble while standing firm in their principles. They admire those who stay calm under pressure, continue learning despite success, and choose integrity even when shortcuts appear easier. There will still be moments when people misunderstand you. Some will disagree with your decisions. Others may criticize your boundaries or question your choices. Accept that as part of life. You were never meant to earn everyone's approval. Your responsibility is not to satisfy every opinion. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to your values. When you do that consistently, something remarkable happens. You stop living for applause. You stop fearing criticism. You stop comparing your journey with everyone else's. Instead, you begin living with purpose, confidence, and peace. That is the life of a high-value person. As this audiobook comes to an end, remember that your transformation doesn't begin tomorrow, next week, or next year. It begins with the very next decision you make. Every choice is an opportunity to strengthen your character or weaken it. Every habit either moves you closer to becoming the person you admire or farther away from that goal. So choose integrity over convenience. Choose discipline over excuses. Choose courage over comfort. Choose purpose over popularity. Choose self-respect over validation. If you continue making those choices day after day, you won't have to convince the world that you're valuable. Your life will become the evidence. Your character will become your reputation. And the respect you once spent years chasing will quietly follow the person you have become. As we come to the end of this journey, remember one simple truth. Becoming a high-value person is not about changing who you are. It is about becoming who you were always capable of being. Throughout this audiobook, you've discovered that genuine respect doesn't come from seeking approval, impressing others, or pretending to be someone you're not. It grows from self-respect, emotional discipline, integrity, strong boundaries, continuous learning, and the courage to live according to your values. These qualities cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. They are earned through the choices you make every single day. There will still be moments when you face criticism, rejection, or self-doubt. Those moments are not signs that you're failing. They are opportunities to practice everything you've learned. Every time you choose courage over comfort, discipline over excuses, and authenticity over approval, you strengthen the person you're becoming. Don't measure your success by how many people applaud you. Measure it by how much you've grown, how faithfully you've lived according to your principles, and how proudly you can look at the person in the mirror. When your confidence comes from within, other people's opinions lose the power to control your life.